here on a mission. Call it in, call it in, call it in.
You are listening to Navigating Towards the New Earth with Mel M. Rubin. Hello and welcome. So today's special guest is Ola Gramovich. Now, Ola is very, very passionate about the mind and how we can reprogram our mind to create a much better life for ourselves. So I very much got stuck into this conversation with her because I'm also very passionate about the mind and learning how to master the mind. So this conversation went in a very beautiful direction and I know you are going to enjoy it. If you do find value out of this, please share this with your friends, on your socials, and even tag me in your stories if you share this episode on your stories. Enjoy. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Share your story.
All right, my story. So, I actually never planned to be another coach. And at some point of my life, I went into a place where I was like working 9 to 6, really stressful, business development, a lot of targets. And it was just so energy draining that at some point of my life I was like, okay, I cannot do this anymore. I just feel so burned out. And I also knew deep down inside that there is something more to just me working at a job 9 to 6. So I quit my job. I quit my 9 to 6. And when I did it in March 2020, just before COVID hit. Like I quit my job and after 2 weeks, we got lockdown. And my manager was asking me like, there's like pandemic happening. We were planning to promote you. And I was like, I just cannot do it, guys. I just can't. Just let me go. And I left. And then month after month, I was like, I'm going to travel and dive into this self-search through traveling. I feel like I was also running away from work and my previous life, and at the same time really wanting to find myself, like who am I through those travels. But then pandemic hit, and month after month I was like, okay, this is not happening. And eventually after a few months I'm like, okay, I think I'm stuck. So I found another 9 to 6 job. And then life, as always, it likes to play with us. A really traumatic situation happened. I got detained for 2 days. It was just wrong place, wrong time. I had my little Vipassana in prison, in jail. And after that, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I need to shift. I need to change something. And I went out of jail. The first thing I did, I called my boss. I was like crying, I cannot do this anymore. I'm quitting. And I quit my job. And then once again, I was like, I was kind of brought back into my path by these situations. I feel like it was such a blessing that this situation actually happened to me, that it really changed my life. Because since that moment, I knew that coming back is not a choice, because if I come back, something even worse going to happen, because I believe that the universe is kind of giving us, here's a little lesson. Did you learn? No. Here's a harsher lesson. Did you learn from this? No. Here's an even harsher. So it's kind of like kicking us on our butts gently, and afterwards more firmly until we get the lesson. So I got my lesson. I'm like, okay, I understood. I'm not getting back to this 9 to 6 job. And my main realization was like, I'm no longer doing things that I'm not passionate about. So I started looking for those things that I am passionate about, because I didn't really know, like, what do I like? What do I want to do? And one of my friends, she finished a course in Dubai with a person called Robert Simic. He's really popular in Dubai. He has these trainings a few times a year there. And I saw how she shifted. She was already a beautiful human being, but after that course, the way she started manifesting things, looking at life, it was so inspiring that I was like curious, okay, I want to do it myself. So when the right time came, I decided to go into that training, fully kind of surrender into it just for myself. I didn't want to, because this was like a coaching, life coaching, NLP, hypnotherapy training to afterwards be able to help and guide people and clients. For me, it was just for myself. But yeah, the more I was into it, the more I was realizing, oh my God, like I have shifted so much. Now I have these tools in my pocket. I just cannot not share this with the world. And this is how it all started. I was like, okay, let me, after this training, just play around with these tools, have a couple of clients, do these beautiful shifts and transformations to see if it really works. Because sometimes I was wondering, oh my God, if it does it really work? Because sometimes it feels like magic. And the more clients I had, the more kind of proof for myself I was getting that, yeah, after some time, I decided to just focus on that and make this, yeah, my main life's purpose at this point of time.
Wow, thank you so much. I love how you mentioned magic, because magic is real when we follow our heart and what we love and what sets our soul on fire. And also when we learn how to master ourselves and the magic that we get to create, because we're creating magic every day, whether or not we realize it consciously or unconsciously. And typically, people are creating magic that they don't want. They're casting black magic through their negative thinking, and they're manifesting everything that they don't want because they're thinking
Mhm.
negatively about what they don't want and feeling negatively. So naturally they're attracting that, and they're not doing the things that they get to do to move towards what it is that they want. So I really love that you really started to listen to your internal guidance system, because as a society within the Western world specifically, we have been guided away from our natural source of power, which is the messages from our body and our heart. So it got to a stage for you where your job was just like, it's too much for me, I can't do this, it's not right, I'm quitting. And then like it got to a point where the universe was testing you to see how much you
Yeah.
wanted it, but then you got scared because of your mind, so you went back to work, and then it
Mhm.
tested you further, which then put you
Oh,
on this path, which is really, really beautiful. And I'd love for you to expand on your experience when it comes to listening to your heart and your intuitive guidance. Because for me,
mhm.
when I started my journey back in 2017, that's when the listening to my heart really started, and it didn't make sense. And
Mhm.
everyone was like, what are you doing? This is stupid. Like, you've worked so hard to get this high in the bank and all of that. And I was like, it just feels right. I didn't
Yeah.
know doing. I was just like, it just feels right. I'm doing it. I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to me. So I'd really love
Yeah.
for you to expand on that experience for yourself when it comes to listening to your heart.
Yeah. You know what? For me, it started at first from the place of I know I don't want this. I cannot do this. And then slowly, it shifted into what I want now. But in the beginning, it was like, I just cannot handle this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And slowly moving to literally following the feeling within. If it feels right, then I'm going for it, no matter what the society tells me. And what I also realized throughout the journey is that my one of my main values in life is pleasure. Everything what I do in my life, be it work, be it any activities and traveling and people, it's all about pleasure. And when I tune in and I think and I imagine if this is going to bring me pleasure, awesome, let's go there. If I don't see pleasure in it, I'll really think twice to go there or not to go there. Yeah. And also I've been contemplating a lot these days on the fact that before, a lot of times I was like, if it's a maybe, if I'm contemplating actually, sometimes I would lean into yes. And what I realized these days that now how I take decisions, I say yes only when it's a full yes. If it's a yes, how they say, if it's a fuck yes, it's a yes. And if it's a no, it's a no, of course. But if it's a maybe, if I'm contemplating, for me at this point of my life, it's a no. If I cannot decide, if I'm thinking, oh, I don't know, should I take it left or right, do this and this, yes or no, it's a no for me. And since I have decided to take my decisions this way, it became so much easier to decide. Just to be like, if it's a full yes, I go for it.
That. I love that. And that's the thing, like when we tune in and when we choose ourselves and the joy and the pleasure, that's when the true magic happens. Because whatever we choose, the universe is always conspiring with us to make it happen. So if we're choosing things that make us feel shit, like the universe is just going to give us more of it. Whereas if we choose pleasure and if we tune into what makes us feel good, the universe is like, there you go, you get it all. Like the universe is never against us; it's always with us. But it's whether or not we're against ourselves, and because of the way have moved through life and because of the way that we have been trained as a collective, we've been trained to move through life with our mind, which I mean goes there. So negative Nancy's there. And we've been trained to move through life with our mind, but we've not been trained how to control our mind, which is a really big thing. And it's a big thing that you work on with your clients is the mindset part of things. And it's certainly something for myself that really allowed me to transform my life. Like the first two books that I read on my journey, and I always recommend them, is The Magic by Rhonda Byrne and A Happy Pocket Full of Money by Cameron Gikandi, I think he's called. And it really allowed me to start transforming my mind and rewiring the neuro pathways in my brain. What we can do with daily, repetitive, consistent action. So yeah, like with the mindset work that you do with, well, that you did with yourself in respects to the transformation of life that you also support your clients with, I'd love for you to expand on that and the power that it's had on your life.
So just to also elaborate on what you have mentioned about the brain, right? And the fact that you reading these books, you have managed to reprogram, right, your brain, your neurons. Before, people thought that whatever we have is that our brain is not, there's no brain plasticity. Whatever is your neuropaths are stuck, that's it. What we find now from scientific research that there is brain plasticity, meaning that a person can change his life at any point of time. And this is an incredible shift. And what I do, I feel like I'm just the first step, like a ladder, right? For me, the ladder consists of three parts. It's the mind, first step. Then we have the body, second step. And then we have the heart or the soul, the third step. So I'm kind of like, yeah, helping people to go up the ladder. The first step is the mind. So by managing the mind, by allowing not the mind control you, but you controlling the mind, taming the mind, it's so much easier to drop into your body, drop into your heart, to afterwards be able to live your life from the heart rather than from the mind. Even though I'm really working a lot with the mind, the purpose at the end of the game is still to live from the heart. Live from the heart. And yeah, what I do with my work is allowing those people to be able to see the mind not as an enemy, but as a friend. Because can you imagine all of this self-talk, the evil talk that people have, just shifting that evil talk, and instead of that little devil in the head, giving this person or this brain a different image of a little coach inside of your head. Like, just imagine that this terrible self-talk could turn into a beautiful, motivational coaching session day by day, helping the person to live a better life. Like this little person, little tiny coach, which is there for you all the time. That's amazing. So this is what I wish each and every human being to have this shift between this little devil in their head into a freaking awesome coach who knows what, how, when, and sees life in a positive, beautiful perspective.
I love that. And I love how you mentioned it's all about coming back to the heart. I did a post yesterday in respects to that. And it's like, you can go back, for listeners, you can go back to my, I think it's episode 2, my vision for the new earth. But essentially, for us to create the new earth, it is all about coming back to the heart. And really, like, I'm experiencing the new earth here in Bali with the community here, because we get together. Like last night, I went to a fire, like a jam, a circle around a fire, and we're all singing music, and there's amazing musicians that have come up with their own unique medicine music, and it's all about coming back to the heart, like drinking cacao to open our heart, and like really connecting authentically to each other without the need or want, for that matter, of alcohol, which only kills our mind and blocks us from coming back to the heart. And and we've been so disconnected from our heart for good reason. Like, whoever created who is in control of this system and the mass collective, like, they know our power when it comes to us coming back to our hearts and our bodies. And this is why they don't train us to master our mind, because when we do connect to our heart and when we do connect to our bodies, the magic that we get to create in respects to the life that we get to live for ourselves, like, is phenomenal. And we're less easily controlled, we're less easily manipulated, because like we land into who it is that we truly are. So I really love that you are guiding people back to their hearts, because it's my belief that our soul lives in our heart. Because I don't know if you've ever seen, there's been studies on like heart transplants. So when people had a heart transplant, the memory of the other person and smells and all of that stuff, the person who's received the heart experiences that. So when we learn how to connect to our heart, that's connecting to our soul, which in turn, the more we follow our heart's calling and our soul's calling, is the more we're living a life true to us, rather than a life that has been constructed by our culture, our society, and the people in our lives. And then we land into that true happiness. I have a question at the back of this. It's just come in my mind. So I started my journey depressed and anxious. I never took any medication, and I started my mindset work and connected to my body and my heart. And my depression just went, because I started focusing on myself and my future that I wish to create, and like focusing on what I wanted rather than what everyone else wanted of me, and expectations of society and all of that stuff. So what's your viewpoint in respects to like mental health and the mind, and like transforming it if it's at a really low point?
Transforming the mind at a low point, right?
Yeah. So if someone was struggling like really badly with health and depression and anxiety, like what would you advise them to do in respects to their own daily consistent work?
Okay. So the first thing that I would suggest people is to avoid medication, because I believe that all the antidepressants, they really get the people away from themselves. And I know people who have been on those pills for so many years and they cannot get off them. So you're basically addicted to something that's supposed to help you, but eventually it doesn't heal the root cause of the problem. It just kind of covers the symptoms, and that's the worst thing one can do, because depression, for me, how I see depression, depression, it's like a person is depressed. The person needs deep rest. The person just within, it's a sign, hey, your body, your mind, your soul, alert, rest, rest, rest. And the first thing is to come back to yourself, to listen to all of those pains and to go within them. And it all comes back to working on traumas, to working on and finding that root cause of what is there behind. And whatever the root cause is, having the power to go there, to go into that pain and to figure out and to release it through different techniques. And these days we're so blessed to have such a variety of techniques and practices, and their availability also, be it online, be it offline. These things are available right now for people so much more than they were a few years ago. And this is, again, a blessing that we're living at this time and age, because everything, the information is so accessible right now.
Yeah. And it's like you said earlier, it's like, it's not just the way that it is. We can change things. And just because you may be depressed now, it doesn't mean that you necessarily always will be. It's simply a sign from your body, as you said, that something gets to change you. So it's finding out, okay, well, what gets to change? And it's funny, I posted something the other day. I was like, if you're not depressed when it's the weekend or when you're on vacation, you're not depressed. You've just got a shit life and a shit job. So you get to change. It's the
and you have the choice. We always have a choice, and it comes from us, not from someone else.
Definitely. And I love how you mentioned going deep within the trauma. And sometimes it's hard, or well, not sometimes, all of the time it's hard. And this is also why it's important to, if you don't feel like you can do it yourself, and if you don't have the tools yourself, to find someone that can hold space for you and allow you to go within yourself. Because typically, and this is the beauty of having coaches and mentors, is because they hold the space, but they also ask the right questions. Because typically we're not asking ourselves the right questions, especially if we're in such a low negative like mind frame and vibrational way of being. We're typically like, oh, why is this happening to me, rather than okay, well, why is this happening to me? Like, where is this coming from? More from an empowered way, more from like a sort of warrior standpoint of, right, let's fix this, let's get through it. So when it comes to feeling disempowered in your situation and moving over to feeling empowered, what supported you on your journey of moving from that feeling to where you're currently at now?
It was the right books. I don't know, it's just like when the right time comes, the right people and the right things just are magnetized. It's like suddenly the right books come to my hands, the podcast, the people. it was just like a magical combination of little things around me that I was able to magnetize. And I would say my shift started with a beautiful book called 40 Rules of Love by Elif. She's a Turkish writer. I'm not sure what's her surname. And it was all about love. It's basically about Sufism. There's a lot about the Sufi side of the Islamic religion. And because I lived in Dubai for so many years and I was in that space for a very long time, I've seen a lot of things, how this religion could affect people in a positive and in a negative way. And just having this book in my hands and seeing that it's not about the book or religion or anything, it's about love, no matter where we go. In the core of each and every single prophecy is love, be it Hinduism, be it Christianity, be it whatever. And even if a person doesn't believe in anything, in the core of that person, there's still love. And that's what was fascinating. I was like, oh my God, I was seeing parallels. There's so many parallels in each and every religion that eventually everyone is talking about the same thing. And at the core of that is love.
And it makes me think of just a simple question that we get to ask ourselves in any given situation. What would love do?
What would love do? That's beautiful. What would love do? And can you imagine each and every human being acting from the place of love? If there is some cruelty happening, instead of being, this guy, compassion, because that person most probably is even more traumatized, is even more wounded to do something negative and cruel. So just having that compassion to this human being, just compassion and love.
Yeah, for sure.
Even in
And
these situations.
definitely. I've personally found on my journey, the deeper that I've gone within myself to heal my wounds and to overcome my trauma, and I call it shining a light on my darkness to find the color in my journey. So the more that I've done that and the more I've landed into a deep sense of love for myself and every aspect of myself, past, present, and future. And the more I've learned to validate myself and let go of judgment and be compassionate with my human and let go of any shame or negativity or guilt within my journey and my story and just understand it and understand myself, the more I've been able to do that and essentially come back to love, the more I'm able to do that for other people.
Yeah. There's a story I want to share that happened to me last year in August. It was a story about a moment where I felt unconditional love, so much unconditional love, feeling of oneness. It was just incredible. I went to a hockey match and I was with my family, with a friend of mine, and our team won. Such a beautiful feeling, this unity, because, the hockey match, so many people, everyone is shouting, so much energy. And after the match, I'm with my friend in the car and we're discussing how was it. And I was like, oh, this is so weird. My body is shaking. Maybe I'm still excited about what happened in the match. The music is playing, the sky is incredible. I'm admiring the sky. I'm like, wow, the sky is so beautiful. Everything is just so incredible. And my friend is like, listen, the sun is setting right now. We're just gonna turn on this corner and you're gonna have the sunset in front of your eyes. So he turns the car. I see the sun, and I was like, whoa, this like huge wave of ecstasy in my body. I was like, oh my God, I'm not sure what's happening. And then I look at the sun again, and it's like there was a crazy expansion, like the feeling that I felt within me was the feeling of ecstasy that I have never felt in my life, with like feeling of oneness, of love. And I feel like after that moment, my life will never be the same, 100%. Like, and the moral of the story is that to feel this way, you don't need to take anything, like be it drugs or alcohol, or do certain things to reach that space. It was just a freaking sunset. I was just admiring the sun, the sky, and this brought such an incredible shift of energy and feeling of oneness. And that amount of ecstasy I felt, I've never felt in my life. So yeah, just knowing that our world, we're living in a magical world and everything is possible.
Oh, literally, there is no limit. The only limit to what we can create and be, do, and have is the limit that we put upon ourselves. And it's really important that we come back to the heart, that we look at life through a lens of love and compassion, and that we learn how to keep our heart open, because typically our hearts are closed and we're going through life with
Yeah.
heart. So, and because like we believe that if we have our heart open, we can get hurt. And like it's, you know, we can die from having a broken heart. It's a real thing, right? So typically people close their hearts and armor up and are like really defensive. Whereas what we must learn how to do is open our hearts and boundary up. Choose ourselves, boundary up, learn how to effectively communicate. So when we feel this discomfort and negativity within our body in respects to relationships, situations, other people, we can then effectively communicate what our boundary is in respects to, I don't, please don't do that. And then if someone doesn't respect that, it's like, okay, well, if you don't respect my boundary, then I choose myself goodbye. You're not supposed to be in my field. So what's your experience been with like boundary setting and navigating that field of reality for yourself? Because from my experience, it was hard at first and it was scary at first, but it's been the best thing that I could have ever possibly done.
100%. Before, I was a person who was saying yes to everything. A person needs help, I'm in. No matter what, no matter who, no matter when. People knew they can call me at 3, 4 a.m. and yeah, I would be the person who would be picking up the phone and running no matter what, and just there anytime. Yeah, you can relate, huh? And at some point of time, I realized that I'm losing it. I'm losing my energy, and I felt that I'm not being true to myself. So at one point of time, I decided that I am going to help my friends. I am going to be there for people, and I'm going to be there for people from the place of abundance of my own energy, of my financial abundance, of anything that that person requires. If I don't have that abundance within me, I cannot help you. I'm sorry, like I can't, because it is not beneficial for me and it's not going to be beneficial for the other person. Because once again, if my cup is not full, how can I fill someone else's cup?
Yeah, I get that completely. And it's like, you know, people pleasing and saying yes and all of that, that's a trauma response. So then what we get to do is we get to understand where this trauma response comes from. And like for me, a big thing over the last like year and a half that I've really been like anchoring in and letting go of, but also still doing from a place of like love and respect for myself, because I get to love and respect myself first, is overgiving. I love to give. It's just a part of my nature, and I love to be there for my people and all of that stuff. But then at the same time, I also get to love to give to myself. So through my overgiving, I was actually taking from my reserves and like depleting me. And I was like, what's going on? So it's
it's like, why do I feel shit?
literally. And also it's like when we don't set these boundaries, like we can still overgive, we can still say yes, we can still be there for our people. But then if first off, if we don't understand our boundaries and our limits as to what feels good and what doesn't, and then set our boundaries in that sense, people will just take. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. It's just the way that we've been trained. Like the majority of the population are takers. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. And it's important that we come back to, okay, well, how do I get to replenish certain things? There's a really good book as well that I'm halfway through reading called Ishmael. Very, very good book. Highly recommend the read. And it talks about takers and givers and how, you know, our society is based on just taking. Like we took the land from the indigenous just because we could. We took this because we could, rather than giving back. And this is why we are where we are on the planet right now, and why the planet's dying, and like how we're destroying the planet, and also how we're destroying ourselves from the inside out. Because typically if you're in the old paradigm way of living rather than the new paradigm, which is what we're moving towards, and the new earth and all of that, it's like you take, but the real magic and the real fulfillment comes from giving. So where are you giving? And I know when I was depressed and at my worst, I was not giving. Like like I was there for my friends, but then I wasn't giving to the potential that I could have given.
Yeah, it was more harming than beneficial, I guess.
Yeah. So it's really, really important that we like learn how to respect our boundaries with that, but also learn how to respect other people's boundaries too.
True. I also loved what you mentioned about the earth, because as society in the past, I don't know, in the past years, we were just taking from earth. The amount of resources we took out of our planet is incredible, but the amount of things we have actually given back to our planet is so little. So this is what I'm also wishing for the new earth, right? To have that respect and gratitude for our planet and start giving back more to her. So Mother Earth.
And people are seeing the importance of this, and they're shifting towards it. And as a planet and as a collective, we've been going through huge shifts over the past years within our consciousness and our vibrational frequency. The Earth's resonance. I mean, you can look this up on a scientific level. This isn't just like your spiritual woo-woo. But yeah,
there's Schumann's resonance, right? Schumann's resonance.
Yes.
There's a resonance. Yeah. And it has been really, really increasing.
Yes.
So much.
Yes. And because Mama Gaia's resonance has been increasing, we are affected by her resonance. So her resonance, I think I watched a video yesterday, it was at 7 point something, and now it's at 11 point something. So it's rising massively. So on a scientific level, you can really like look at this like from that resonance standpoint, and from the spiritual level and the way that I perceive it and look at it, it's like, you know, we're not the only living species in this universe. Like there are more out there, and there are beings that are supporting our rising level of consciousness, and essentially the resonance that's rising is supporting our rising level of consciousness. And by our level of consciousness rising, it's like, okay, well, you know, it's coming back to love for one, and it's like really learning how to respect the planet. And this is what people are really starting to look at. It's like, okay, well, the fueling myself for one, looking after myself comes first. Like we've been trained by this system to not look after ourselves and to fuel ourselves with all of the shit water, shit food, like shit things on TV. The news is like a lower vibration, and it keeps us in that fear-based consciousness, which we want to move out of.
I feel like it's worse than junk food.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, like it's all of it, and especially if it's combined, right? It just keeps us small. It keeps us low vibrational, easily controlled and manipulated. And we've come here to be big. Like you're sharing through you following your heart and moving past that fear-based consciousness and landing into the love-based consciousness and the trust and the surrender. Like you're sharing your medicine and magic with the world and creating such an amazing positive difference. And we all get to do this. Like all of us have come here for a reason. It's simply a case of learning how to drop away from that fear-based mentality, which we've been like conditioned into, and land into that heart and that love resonance. So with that being said, what is your encouragement for the listeners right now? Like the biggest encouragement that's coming up?
The biggest encouragement, I would say, to gain the power and the empowerment back by taking responsibility for each and every single thing that you experience, be it a negative, be it a positive, owning that you have created this. And if it's a positive moment, amazing. If it's a not positive moment, owning it and learning from it. Because I feel like we're all here to grow and to learn at the end of the day. So each and every single situation that happens not to us, because nothing happens to us, each and every situation that is around us comes from within, and it's there for us to learn. So just an encouragement is take your power, own, be it negative, be it positive, and learn from that.
Love that. Yeah, it's so important that we learn how to take our power back. Like I keep saying it, we've been trained to give our power away from day dot. So taking our power creates that magic that
yeah. And it's easy to blame someone else. Oh, it's the government. It's this person. It's this person. But do you have control on government? No. Do you have control on this person? No. The only thing you have control on is yourself. So instead of like blaming other people, take responsibility and own the perception, the perspective of whatever is happening and how you can make the situation better, not someone else.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And as a new earth leader yourself, supporting people in their growth and ascension towards a better future for themselves, what is your vision for the new earth and the future of this planet and humanity?
I feel like all of us are going to be living in communities. So New Earth is a community, and it's not competition, it's collaboration. And these communities, they come from a place of respect to oneself, to the community, to the planet. And at the same time, there's a lot of self-sufficiency and less dependency. Like it's self-sustainable, self-sufficient communities.
I love that. I got goosebumps as you were saying it. So that's true.
Me too. I was like, okay.
You're speaking the truth. Amazing. Ola, I am so grateful for you and for your medicine and magic that you've shared today. I would love for you to share with the listeners what it is the work that you do specifically. So if they're interested in reaching out to you, they know what you can support them with, as well as where they can find you and the best way of contact for you.
So I work with people's mindsets and perceptions, shifting the mindset and the perception of a human being through different NLP tools, hypnotherapy, and basically, as I mentioned before, the steps, mind, body, and the soul, just helping people to get closer and to the heart. So for the person, it's easier to drop into the heart after working on the mind and taming the mind. Where you can find me is LinkedIn. You can just search me on LinkedIn. It's Ola, Ola, and my surname is Gramovich. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to check me out, to contact me for further details.
Amazing. And what I'll do as well is I'll put all of your links in the show notes. So your LinkedIn, and if there's any other links, I'll pop them in the show notes so anyone can find you, follow you, get in contact with you. Yeah, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so very much. Before we
Thank
end,
you so much.
is there anything that you want to say before we end?
First of all, thank you very much for creating this podcast, for inviting me. As I mentioned before the podcast started, I've checked out your episodes. They are incredible. They're filled with light, and I literally was resonating with each and every word that you have mentioned in your first episodes. So I feel there's a lot of potential and a lot of beauty that you're creating, and thank you for being, just for existing and for creating. So
thank you so much. That means so much. Have the very best day. And yeah, I'm looking forward to when you come on again. I know that will happen soon enough. Bye-bye.
with pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next episode.
Know that you're not alone. We are ready.